Guys, welcome to Real Talk. It's Jerry Miller. Thank you kindly for joining us. Real Talk, an insider's guide to real estate across Charlottesville, Central Virginia, and the Commonwealth, powered by the one and only Keith and Yonna Smith of the Yes Team Realtors. We have a fantastic program lined up for you. Katie West in the mix today. She's going to join us for an hour to talk real estate, settlement, title, insurance, the players in the game. We're going to have a good time. Why don't we start with the two-shot? Judah Wickhauer, our director, and welcome the Dapper Keith Smith to the program. How are you, my friend?
I think you out-dappered me this morning.
I don't think so.
No, I'm very impressed with what you put together. So has anybody ever seen the Heartbreak Ridge, the movie Heartbreak? Mm-hmm. And there's a scene in it where the guys come out in different shirts and everybody has to guess. So every morning I try to guess what pocket square you're wearing, and I have not got it right yet.
I got, you would appreciate this, went on Amazon and got a pack of 30.
Oh, great. Now I make it even harder.
Oh, I mean, it's so affordable. I mean, you like to look good, too.
Yeah, but I'm trying to match them and, just not happening.
Before we welcome Katie West to the program, the show powered in part by Roy Wheeler Realty Company.
Thank you. Yeah, so Michael Guthrie is just a great guy to work with and offers us the great opportunities to go ahead and foster our business and grow our business. And there's a relationship between Roy Wheeler Realty and our rock star guest that we're going to talk to today, Katie West. And they're outstanding individuals to work with.
Let's go to the studio cam and let's welcome Katie West to the program. Katie, how are you?
I am wonderful. How are you?
We're doing well, thank you. Let's start with the who, what, when, where, why of Katie West. What makes you tick?
Oh, wow. Real estate mostly. I have tried to leave this industry so many times, but I just keep coming back because it's wonderful. And I love doing what I do. But I have been in Charlottesville for a little over 12 years and been running Charlottesville Settlement for those 12 years. Before that, I was in South Carolina, which is where I'm from. And I have done everything in real estate you can imagine. But my favorite part is the closing end of things and the title insurance. And I spend a lot of time researching and keeping up to date on the latest things that we have to follow because it's always changing.
The toughest question we're going to ask you today, Gamecocks or Tigers?
Oh,
you said
good.
South Carolina over there.
I knew that was going there.
Well, here's the thing.
Okay.
I grew up a Tigers fan. My sister lives in Clemson. And both of my sisters went to Clemson. So Clemson was the family thing. But then I married a Georgia fan.
Ooh.
I saw that in your profile picture.
Yeah. So after 3 years of fighting with him, I decided that I'd rather stay married, and now I'm a Georgia fan.
There you go. Georgia Bulldogs, Keith.
How do you follow up something like that?
Tough.
So one of the things I absolutely love working with Charlottesville Settlement, and particularly Katie, we talk about this on the show all the time, and Katie may agree or disagree with me, but the process has seemed to have been getting more complicated year over year over year. I've been doing this for 30-something years. Katie's shortly been doing it as long as that. But what I like about working with Katie and her organization is they're problem solvers. I don't think we've ever had a process that didn't get fixed and closed. Mm-hmm. And I can't overstate that. If you're in the space to buy or to close or to sell, and I say this all the time, from a real estate perspective, the easiest part, frankly, is to get it under contract. People may disagree with me, and that's fine, but the real skill is taking it from that contract with somebody like Katie and her organization to get to the table, the closing, so you can hand a key. We can do case studies all show long, but I would like to kind of jump right in to title. Mm-hmm. And this is a question that comes up all the time at the closing table because the buyer asks us this: what is the real difference between owner's title and the bank's title? I know it's a pretty heavy, lofty, it is not a softball question by any stretch of the imagination, but you're a pro and I figured you can help us explain that.
I can actually simplify it pretty easy.
Please.
Okay. So lender's title insurance is required by the lender to cover their interest in the property and only their interest in the property. So if you don't have an owner's policy, all of your equity is at risk. So the owner's policy covers the difference between your loan amount and your purchase price. And say you're getting 100% loan, you think, I don't need owner's title insurance. Well, actually you do. Because as you pay that loan down, guess what? You're risking everything you've put into that property. And, over years, that can be a lot of money. And title problems don't always pop up in the first year or two. Sometimes it doesn't pop up until you're ready to sell it 15 years down the line. Well, at that point, you've got a lot at risk. And, your opportunities to move on with your family to your new home is at risk. So if you bought that owner's policy, it would have covered you. And owner's title insurance, what it does is if a problem pops up, it either A, will insure over it so that you can go on and sell and the new owner has their coverage, or it will put lawyers in place to protect your interest in the property, and they'll either pay out to make that problem go away, or they will convince the courts that it's not really a problem and this person has an invalid claim. So either way, if you go and hire an attorney, you're going to spend thousands and thousands of dollars, maybe all of your equity. But if you have an owner's title insurance policy, they put those attorneys in place and you never pay a dime.
And that's relatively inexpensive, correct? And it's a one-time
Yes.
fee that lasts
Forever.
technically forever.
Yeah, even after you sell the property. Say you've given a general warranty deed to the new purchaser, and then they come up with a problem and they come back to you, your owner's title insurance policy will still cover you.
Good information there. Lucille Miller, your cousin, says you look fantastic. She's watching right now from Ohio.
Ohio.
Says, hi there, Katie. You're my cousin. You're great. Give us a firsthand perspective. No names, but give us a kind of like a story or a nitty-gritty that really captures this well, that even makes it more approachable or relatable to the layman, which you did really well there.
Yeah. Well, we have so many stories, but one of my favorite ones actually happened to one of my other offices. The title searcher had searched the property, done a great search. Well, we close, everything looks fine. Well, it turns out that there was a second deed of trust on the property, and they had misspelled the owner's name, both first and last name on the deed of trust. But the bank was foreclosing, and they were going to foreclose on our purchaser. Well, the purchaser had paid cash, but he did not get an owner's policy. However, we felt bad because we had done the closing. So our attorneys tried to step in and mitigate the issue. Well, we found out that, thank goodness, that second deed of trust was on another property as well, and they were able to get that solved that way. But if that guy had had an owner's policy, he would have been completely protected. This way, our attorney stepped in and helped him, but if his realtor had told him not to get owner's title insurance, and he stood to lose his entire house.
So what folks sometimes don't understand, and you've used the term "our attorneys" a couple of times in that explanation, and it's usually a couple $100, right? Somewhere between $2 and $4 or $5, depending on I think there's a pretty simple formula.
Yeah.
Even if it's 500 and under, they just fix it hundreds of hours. So there's attorneys that are associated with Charlottesville Settlement, and Bill Tucker happens to be one of them, would step in and fix it. The value is just unbelievable, and it amazes me. Two things that always amaze me when you're at the closing table that folks just won't do is that in a survey.
Right.
Right. I don't understand it. But some of that's the developer, builder brain.
Talk to me about the survey.
Yeah, so, particularly in a city environment, you never know where utility lines are, where easements are. Somebody has one, we just recently did one where somebody had built an auxiliary dwelling unit, an outside building that was encroaching literally into the next person's property because it was built in such a time that nobody really cared. And thankfully, these folks took our advice and took Katie's advice and Bill Tucker's advice and got a physical survey, and we were able to figure something out, which was rather complicated. But that's a great example. Larger tracts of land, maybe not so much, but definitively when you're in some high density kind of properties, and when you hire a trusted advisor such as us or Katie or Bill, they'll look at where the property's located and go, whoa, time out. We know that there's some issues here. You need to get a survey to make sure it's done. And then, it's well worth the money to spend. But some folks choose not to do that.
What is, that's good information too. What is the favorite part of your job? I think I can already tell you love the people, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
That is my favorite part.
Yeah.
And, as the company has grown, I don't get to do closings as much anymore. So every now and then I'll get one that for some reason I have to do it. And I'm like, yes.
Because it's the joy at the closing table, right?
Yes.
It's such great positive energy.
It is. And, getting people through this process that has been so stressful, and you're the one that gets to sit there and relieve all of that stress, oh, it's fabulous.
She's like the closer in the bottom of the ninth inning that comes in
Oh,
and you get all the accolades, right?
Do not bring up baseball at the
Okay,
moment.
we will not do that.
I'm not a happy camper at the moment.
We also get all of the fault if something doesn't go perfect. So
Sure.
you kind of are playing that game, but we try and make sure that we've addressed everything before we get to that point so that we don't get any fault.
You see that smile?
Yeah.
I've never seen that smile not on her face. No matter what's happening, I've never seen that. But I'm starting to now wonder why every time I call and the question is asked, well, so who's doing closing? Is Yonna showing up or is Keith showing up? And that may be for a reason, because, when Yonna shows up, Katie's at the table. When I show up, she's not.
That's not true.
I'm
is it?
just saying.
That's not
True.
That is not
Sybil Hale giving you some love right now. Andrea Simpson giving you some love. This portion of the program, thanks to Mike Bittrick at First Heritage Mortgage.
Yeah. So, again, another rock star. We've been talking about this all the time. Continually helping clients get great rates and great service, and there's a relationship. Everybody that we kind of work together or kind of have relationships. I'll just take a quick example. I just closed one with Bill Tucker's office in Palmyra, and a vet, single mother. I have super affection for vets, as you know, because I am one. And 5 minutes before closing, she just she didn't take my advice and used a online lender. And 5 minutes before closing, the Palmyra, Katie's shaking her head, the Palmyra office got a phone call that, we're not funding. And this woman, God love her, drove in from Virginia Beach with a 3-year-old son to buy a house and close. And we fixed it. And she closed the house.
How'd you fix it?
We fixed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Magic.
Yeah, well, I got on the phone. The New Yorker came out to me.
Yeah.
And we fixed it.
Okay.
So, so we fixed it. She was allowed to move. Literally moving truck at the front. So we ended up doing an early possession agreement. Anyway, we got her in the home and we made it happen, and it's going to close today. Funds are going to move around, but so that's the reason why you use trusted folks like Katie and Mike and Bill Tucker's office and all this stuff, and Yonna and myself, because we're able to, when the what hits the fan, we make it happen.
Well said. I'm curious, as a businessman here, of the vertically integrated nature of your business. The association with the law firm, you've already captured it well in your first anecdotal story. Just put it in perspective even more of having, do you call them sister companies?
They are subsidiaries pretty much of
Okay.
Charlottesville Settlement Company.
Okay.
So Charlottesville Settlement is owned by 10 local attorneys, and they all have their own law firms. I just run Charlottesville Settlement for them. But I do have access to their vast legal experience, which is always a great thing. But I have joint ventures with several real estate companies in the area. And then I have settlement companies in Lynchburg, Wytheville, and Nellysford. Nice. And then some of them have also joint ventures with realtors in their areas. So in all, we have a total of 15 companies. We also have a legal runner company that runs and records documents and updates title and stuff for not only our company, but for attorneys and other settlement companies.
And Katie West runs all that stuff.
Yeah.
And when I said a rock star, I meant it.
I see that. How do you keep up with all this?
I guess since I've been there since day one and I've grown it all, I understand it so well that it's what I do. And I don't, people ask me how I do it, and I'm like, I don't know, I just have to.
You just make it happen.
I just have to.
But you're also extremely fortunate because you were able to coach and bring up some pretty effective employees that there's very rarely I need to pick up the phone and say, Katie, I need a little help.
Yeah.
It's usually taken care of long before it gets to Katie. So
Well, and
kudos to you on that.
I have to thank the attorneys that own Charlottesville Settlement. They have taught me from day one that there's always a way to yes, and there's always a way to fix whatever the problem is.
Nice.
And so I have passed that along to all of my employees that you don't say no. You say, hold on, let me check into that. And then we go and we find a way to make it happen because there's always a way.
So Yonna and I have almost 100% close rate. Once we get under a contract, we close. Very rarely we do not get across the table, mainly because of folks like Katie and do all that stuff. And Bill, just an example, I had a phone call from Bill Tucker, 9 o'clock last night on a transaction. Said, look, we solved it. Great. And so we're going to close. Again, trusted advisors. And we had a conversation about millennials last Friday, and that's really what millennials, and most of these buyers we're working with are millennials, and we say, look, we've got your back, we're going to get this taken care of.
I love it. I love it. John Sitton, giving you some props right now. Tyler West, giving you some props right now. So you watch it in Florida?
Taylor is in Florida.
So yeah? Okay, I love it. I love it. Give it a like, give it a share.
Say hi to Mickey Mouse.
You'll appreciate this. We have some folks, Ann Fitzer is watching right now. Her and Richard in Florida. 4 states watching the program. Ron Gantz, Bellamy Brown, Tyler Berry, Jerry Baber, Sang, and Troy Gray. Welcome to the program. Throw this to you. The Millennial Boom in the housing market. I'm in that demo. Made some transactions. Put anywhere you want to go with that topic, with what you're seeing from the millennials.
I think in some ways that they've researched a lot more, and that's a good and a bad thing. The good part of it is that they kind of have an overview of the way the process should go. What they don't have is that Charlottesville is a very different market in that we split the transaction between buyer and seller, and in most of the country, it's all done at one table. So anything that they're reading on the internet is how it happens when they're all at one table. Well, that's not the way it works here. So they don't understand that we aren't going to slide your keys and your money across the table. That's not how it's going to happen. We have to go and update the title and record and get funding from lenders and all kinds of other things before you get those keys. So just because you close at noon doesn't mean you're necessarily going to get in that house today. It might be tomorrow, because we have to wait on the funding from the lender before we can go and pick up the deed from the other side and then get to the courthouse, and they close at 4:15, and it can all roll downhill. So they don't understand that part of it. But the other part of it is that they're willing to listen most of the time. And if they will just pick up the phone and call somebody and say, hey, explain this to me, before they get to that table, then they end up with a much happier process than just reading on the internet.
So process. So everybody who watches the show knows I'm a Marine, and the 6 Ps: proper planning prevents piss poor performance. So let's talk a little bit about process. We most folks know the process on the front end, right? Contact the real estate agent. We'll go through the apps. We talked about that last Friday. But we're now under contract, right? And of course, you have a trusted advisor and a real estate agent trying to walk you through, and we're partnering with Charlottesville Settlement and Bill Tucker and so forth and so on to get it through there. But so out of process, what roadblock do you usually see, right? Home inspections, or what is usually that kind of slows a process or a closing down? Does that make sense? Yes,
that does make sense.
Good question.
The biggest thing is that people think that they have to get those inspections done and all of their stuff done before they turn that contract over to the closing company. Don't do that. Turn it over, because especially with our joint venture relationship with Roy Wheeler and several of the other real estate companies, if that deal goes south because funding doesn't come, or lender doesn't come through, or
Appraisal.
there's an appraisal problem, or something goes south and that buyer cannot buy that property, we aren't going to send you a bill. But it gave us the opportunity to get that search done early so that if there are any of those title issues that need to be dealt with, we've got plenty of time to do it, and your closing isn't delayed. Your lender isn't slowed down by the fact that we can't get them a title binder on time. And everything is hinged on that search. So if you don't get that search started early enough in the process, you can totally wreck all of your other plans. So that is the biggest roadblock right there.
So we have a client care coordinator, Justine Montgomery, and we have a policy that as soon as we write a contract, within 24 hours, the contracts are dispersed amongst everybody for that very reason, right? Because we want the title work to get started as quick as possible before the buyer pays for home inspection, pays for appraisal, and all this stuff, because Katie's team will look at it and it may stop the process before we even get to the point of our client spending $1,000 or whatever the amount of money.
That's good insight. So within 24 hours, contract's out.
Sometimes less than that.
Really?
Yeah.
Right, that's fast.
Yeah. So we'll get the contract together. We'll have a team meeting on our side with Justine, make sure she has all the information, and then she starts dispersing all the contracts, and pretty quickly they'll turn around. And if we don't get a phone call within 48 hours, then everything is kosher and we keep on moving. Which, by the way, we need to go back to kosher because Bill's been busting my chops about matzo ball soup, but we'll talk about that later.
Jewish penicillin, my wife always says. Matzo ball soup right there. You're getting some props right now from Katie Upton French. You'll also appreciate this. Michael Plecker says, that's why I tell my buyers before we go to Charlottesville Settlement Company and talk to Katie. GR Falls, our buddy, go Katie. And Charlottesville Settlement Company, of course, GR of RE/MAX.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This portion of the program, thanks to Tao Insurance.
Yeah, so we every time you throw that to me, I just kept on bringing this up. Z's a rock star, saved us a ton of money. Again, it sounds like a commercial, but it was $300 or something like that. Enough money that I put it aside when I go out west to Portland next week. I might buy a few extra cocktails when I'm out.
I think you're going to do that regardless.
I think I'm going to do that regardless.
Do that regardless. We're not missing a show though, right?
We are not missing a show.
Okay.
We're going to have Michael Guthrie sitting.
Oh, that's the November 8th one.
Yeah, November 8th.
Okay.
Yeah, he's going to sit in this seat, and I think we're going to talk the new. I think it'll be the Q4 car report.
I love it. How about the real estate ecosystem in Charlottesville and Central Virginia? How long have you been in the game?
In Charlottesville, 12 and a half years.
Okay, so and I'm going to throw it to you, we have a very nice benefit in this community of having the University of Virginia in our backyard, which insulates us from national trends. I'm not saying it completely protects us, but it certainly offers a nice little buffer. The real estate ecosystem and how you've seen it in your time for growth, for equity, and how this is an utter no-brainer from going to being a renter to a homeowner.
Well, Charlottesville, we actually started our company in 2007, which was at the kind of the bottom of the market. And the owners actually had foresight to do that because it gave us a chance to grow back with the market as it came back. The other, buffer that we have is not only UVA, but my husband works for the government. So we have the National Ground Intelligence Center, DIA. We have a lot of government in the area, which is an added buffer.
State Farm, CFA, two hospitals.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of buffers in this area, which, it keeps us from ever suffering as badly as other areas do. So, if you're going to buy, or if you're going to live in the Charlottesville area, you might as well buy because you're more protected here than pretty much, a lot of other places. And, even as far down as we went here in Charlottesville in those bad days, it wasn't anything like what anybody else suffered.
It wasn't Detroit.
Yeah.
It wasn't Cleveland.
Yeah. And we came back so much faster. We rebounded so much faster. So you could hold on and make it through. And this is a fantastic area to invest in real estate to me.
We launched our business in 2008, so a year after.
Yeah.
Launching a business during a recession, if you can make it through those times, You're going to be doing all right in the good times. Put in
Exactly.
perspective launching, I love this stuff. It jazzed me up. Put in perspective launching a business in a recession.
It was a little stressful because, even though my ownership had deep pockets, I didn't want to go that deep into them because at some point they would go, why do we have you really? So I wanted to turn it around. And in my business brain, I have always thought that if you aren't profitable in year 2, you've got a problem. And so I pushed really hard to try and help this company become profitable in year 2, and we did it. And
You got in the black in year 2?
Yeah.
That's pretty aggressive, actually.
Yeah, usually it's 3 years, right?
3 to 5.
Yeah,
I
2
do.
is aggressive.
I do a bunch of
I'm
coaching.
a redhead, we push.
Okay.
No, what were you going to say, though? You do a bunch of coaching.
I do a bunch of coaching and consulting on business planning and management. 2 years is super outstanding.
Yeah.
Well done.
It was a little over 2, but it was right at 2.
Yeah.
When you're like in the black and this business is carrying itself,
Oh, yeah.
give us that feeling of like self-confidence, empowerment. Put that in perspective.
Well, that's a hard one.
You got to be feeling good about yourself.
Yeah, but it wasn't just me. It was the entire team. I have been very fortunate to find the right people in Charlottesville to fill the positions that were needed. And they have all been team players for the most part. And, you're nothing without a great team. And so the only way I got here was by them putting their best foot forward and helping me get there and seeing the big picture. And so we as a team are proud of what we've been able to accomplish.
It's very simple. Teamwork makes the dream work. This business is not a singular thing. We've had this conversation about the millennials, and I absolutely, hands down, love working with them. It excites me. Any transaction excites me. I just love just doing the deal. Almost said something else, but I decided not to.
You can on this show.
Well, no.
You because you have a young spirit.
Well, I appreciate that. But so I do need to pivot a little bit because we've been doing this a couple of shows. My son-in-law just texted me.
Yeah?
Hey, Harry, how you doing? Good to hear from you. Love
Giving
you.
him some props. You
Giving
love
him some
Harry.
love. I love Harry. Big Harry. Now, I love little Harry, too. But I better shut up before I get myself into trouble. This is a thing we've been going on for a couple of weeks.
Oh, okay.
My son-in-law and stuff like that. We're fellow New Yorkers, so we're busting each other's chops.
That's what you
Live.
Let me throw this to you here. One of my favorite things, Rachel Burns, welcome to the program.
Rachel.
Thank you for joining us. John said, I'm so proud of you, Sitton. You are a brilliant, brilliant person. That's from your
Cheers.
cousin right there. Give it a like and a share on any of the channels you're watching. So I love this show because I love real estate and I love learning. We have a couple positions in the portfolio, including most of this building here. How about the difference with residential and commercial?
Ooh.
We're going to go down that rabbit hole?
Both of us literally sighed simultaneously.
Because it's a completely different animal.
It is.
Oh, yeah. They are completely different. We do a lot of underwriting for commercial. We don't do a whole lot of closing for commercial because most commercial clients feel like they need an attorney, which is perfectly fine, but we underwrite for a lot of the attorneys. And I have a very well-versed veteran commercial underwriter that does all of that for me. And so Eileen is fabulous, and we're excited to have her on board. But commercial is definitely a different animal.
Why so much more complicated?
I'm going to punt this one for you.
Okay.
But this is literally a show to itself.
I would love to do it.
It's a whole, and we can do that. We'll bring. You know what? We'll try to bring in somebody like Chip Roy or something like that. It's the. There's no standardized contracts. It works with letter of intent. It's just a whole different animal. I'm actually negotiating for my sister, right? And we're helping her acquire a new space from a lease perspective. And it's amazing. We've looked at 2 or 3 different parcels. I'm very comfortable with this space. I know it well.
Right.
Not one single LOI was the same. Not one single contract was the same. Not one single lease is the same. And it's highly negotiable. It's a very different world. And we'll do that. We will focus once on a commercial.
fun.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, we can do it.
And
Totally.
sometimes commercial deals involve more than just the real estate, which
Oh, yeah.
makes it even another layer of complication.
Sure.
What do you mean by that?
Like the business.
Like it can be chattel, it can be equipment
Sure.
in a restaurant, it can be all kinds of different things that are involved in a business.
So you own this space, just for argument's sake.
Yeah.
I can buy the space in your business, or I can just buy the space. So it's a whole real.
Or whether the 24 tenants come with the purchase.
Yeah, I can see you getting
whether
super
whether
excited
the
about
leases
this.
can pay. I am
Yeah.
super
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoa, Nelly. Whoa.
Let me throw this to you. How about this one? You're going to love this one. How about a multi-family unit transaction or a multi-unit transaction? You got one kind of in the hopper right now, Keith Smith.
A couple of them, anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. With all due respect to Katie sitting
Yeah.
across the table,
You want to go residential?
No. I would. Those projects I would like focus strictly to Bill
Gotcha.
Tucker.
Gotcha.
I'd say, Bill, this
Yeah.
is what I need to do. This is how I need to do this. It's a very different transaction. So multifamily units are very similar to commercial. So we will do that. Maybe we'll bring a commercial guy and a multifamily guy, and we'll have a whole different conversations. So did I deflect that?
You handled it really well. Yes, you did, Keith Smith.
I want to talk about this pretty lady.
How about this? This portion of the program, thanks to your boys at Marie Bet.
Yeah. So look, I'm two-fisting it today.
Double fisting right now.
Double fisting it. This is the coffee and this is the gin. So which one's balancing the other? Yeah, we just absolutely love these guys. Before we came over here, Katie and I had a cup of coffee, and I was, I said it last week, and I'm keeping a track of it. So at Marie Bet now, you can build points, and so
You're number one.
I am number one apparently. But what I'm super excited about it is it's going to be a substantial amount of money, and we're going to give it to Meals on Wheels, so we're really excited about that.
I love it. I love it. What's a day-to-day look like for you? Is every day different?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Every day is different.
Yeah.
I spend way too much time in meetings. And in fact, my favorite saying is over my door. It says, another meeting that could have been handled with an email.
Right. I totally agree with that.
Or a text.
Yeah, or a text. But my favorite days are when I'm involved in either a title problem, trying to help find the answer, or when I get to actually sit with the client and do a closing. Those are my favorite days. The rest of the time, I have to do the meeting part.
So
General manager.
title problem. So we've mentioned this word a couple of times.
Right.
So let's, what would be a title problem? So we're at a closing table, something simple.
An unreleased deed of trust from a prior owner.
Okay,
That
so
happens all the time.
So let's explain what that means.
Okay.
Please.
So, a prior owner had a mortgage. When they sold the property, it may have been paid off, may have been missed, who knows. But we're assuming it's been paid off. However, the lender that had that deed of trust is no longer in business. Not only that, we can't figure out who bought out their stuff, and even if they did, this was supposedly paid off before they were bought out or went into receivership or whatever happened to that bank. So there's nobody to sign a release at this point. So what do? You have to find a way. There are expirations. Say the deed of trust's maturity date was 2019. Well, that deed of trust can be foreclosed on for the next 20 years. It has a life after its maturity date. So we have to find a way to write title insurance over that. So if the seller has an owner's title policy, we're good, because the title insurance company is going to allow us to write over that and ensure the new borrower that they will have no problems with that. If they don't, then we have to figure out a way to get a release on that. Or we have to go back and figure out who did that closing, try and get their records from maybe 10 years ago, and get the evidence that it's been paid so that we can get the title insurance.
You're like an
in.
investigator.
Yes. It's very much an investigator. If they have an owner's title policy, I'm done. But if they don't, it can take me weeks, even months, to correct a problem.
Why would somebody step over dollars to pick up quarters?
Exactly. And that's what we try to tell them on why they need to buy an owner's policy. 97% of the time, you're not going to need it. But if you're in that 3%, it's invaluable. You need it. And it's just like any other insurance. You carry insurance on your car.
Right.
You don't plan on getting in an accident. But if you do, thank goodness you have that insurance policy. Well, you need to treat your house, which is your biggest investment, even more carefully. Do the one-time fee and make sure you're covered.
So I've never had a millennial turn this down. Never had it.
It's
Not
a
so much.
no-brainer.
Not so much in the different demographics. So something that Yonna and I do, if we're representing you as a seller, one of the first things we kind of do our own research and find out when you bought your last house and so forth and so on. And I'm going to direct this question to Katie here in a minute. But one of the things we always do is say, okay, do you have a copy of your recent title policy? Did you get homeowners title policy? And then we'll get them and we'll have them in our stack. So when a contract comes in, we'll share that information with the other side because, and I think Katie can pick up on this from that point, because you can technically start from that point forward, right? So if it's otherwise, if there isn't, you're going back how many years? 60?
40 to 60 years,
Yeah.
depending on what kind of policy we're
So,
writing.
so it's just, again, bringing in a professional, trusted advisor. That's always a great thing. And it's amazing when you have that conversation, they go, oh, I don't know where it is. Oh, well, let's figure, who do you use? So we start doing the cop, we start doing the detective, and we try to get that information because it makes the closing process that much smoother on that. So is that a benefit?
It is. And the other thing is that we have the ability to search the back policies for all of the Fidelity family, which includes Chicago Title and Commonwealth Title and all of those. We can also search all of the Old Republic, which includes all of the old Southern Title policies. We have a database that we can search for those old policies. So, and pretty much we know who everybody in town underwrites with. So if you can even tell me who the closer is, I can pretty much find that policy. We have the ability to search it by tax map number, name, property address, all kinds of things to help us find those policies. And we do that on every single file when it walks in the door.
So you would
Unless you already gave it to me.
Which you do.
Yeah.
Actually, Yonna does, but that's
Yeah.
I love Yonna.
oh god, yeah.
But, you know,
I just
if
do
you-
this. Yeah,
You're good at it.
You know, if a realtor has a client and they at least know who they closed with, I can probably find it.
So roadblocks, typical roadblocks, you know, kind of low-hanging fruit. One was make sure your docs are circulated as soon as you're under contract ratification. Any other roadblocks that one could get in front of prior to making it to your table?
Yes, if you can ask the seller, because a lot of attorneys in this area don't like to record surveys. So if you can
Why
ask
is
your
that?
seller, because if it's different than what they were conveyed, they don't want their seller to be conveying out something different than what's shown on the survey. So a lot of people don't want to record the surveys. I don't necessarily agree with that, but you know, I'm not a lawyer either. But if the seller,
I'm going to stop there. I'm going to have to respond to that. I know lawyers who reach out to you and ask questions. So I mean, literally, lawyers will call Katie up and say, "Can I do this?" And she won't say that because she's too fine of a person, but she's underselling her skills level a little bit.
Anyway, but,
Anyway.
the survey thing, if the seller has a copy of the survey they were given when they purchased the property, that can help us so much, because even though it's not recorded, if we can at least get a copy of it, it makes our lives so much easier and makes the search process so much easier, because then we can confirm that they're selling what we think they are, because a lot of times tax map numbers don't match up and things like that. So it's definitely a plus.
We chatted market. How you seeing the market going? Because you're kind of
Yeah, the pulse.
you're the pulse,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
your
the thing-
business in an indication of the real estate market, and I would even say the economy in totality.
Yeah. I would say that this October is definitely better than last October was for us anyway. Excuse me. My And, you know, even in my other markets, I would say it's definitely stronger this year than it was last year. There have been different bumps this year than there were in prior years. Like, usually July is a very strong month. It wasn't as strong this year for some reason. September was a little bit off. It was weird, but then October picked back up. It's been like little lulls of a couple of weeks, and then it just comes right back. And it's looking like, I mean, we're already getting contracts for December. So it's really kind of odd that our fall market seems to be a little bit better than some of the summer. Not all of the summer, but some of the summer was.
Is there a difference in new construction?
Oh,
versus
you just read my note.
Existing, I did not. A new construction versus, like, say, my home in Redfields, that's a 1994?
Yeah. We're seeing a good mix of both. And actually, the refi market's coming back right now, which is kind of odd. But
Because the rates are so low.
yeah.
It's free money.
Yeah,
Right.
true. But you would think that everybody refied the last time. It seemed like it anyway. But the new home market, we're seeing a good bit of that. And, you know, everybody thinks that if they're buying a new home that they don't need the title insurance
I was
because
just
it's a
going to
brand
ask
new
that.
house.
Yeah.
They-
Was just going to ask that.
Yeah. Well, here's the problem. That land has existed even when the house wasn't there.
Sure.
Point.
And title follows dirt, not bricks and mortar. I mean, it follows the dirt.
So that's an interesting comment. Most people do not know that in the state of Virginia, everything goes with the dirt.
Right.
Some other states
I didn't know
function a little bit differently. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So as long as that dirt's been there, it's had title.
Yeah.
And it can be messed up.
But how
based
does
on-
it, and this is just, you know a hell of a lot more than I do. I mean, say, and I'm not even going to talk names, say a developer buys a farm and chops it into 80 half-acre parcels and builds new construction. Isn't it the developer's responsibility who's buying the farm to make sure that the dirt is clear?
A lot of developers do buy owner's title policies for themselves. Some of them do not.
Really?
You have no way of knowing which ones did and which ones didn't.
Interesting.
And not only that, just because they did buy and there's been a search done, if there's any errors, because, I mean, clerks are human. Things get misfiled.
It's a human error factor.
It can be.
Okay.
It could be that, you know, Farmer Brown, who sold the farm, you know, had a son who was in jail and he doesn't consider him his son anymore. And so he didn't include him.
Oh.
And he has some rights. And, you know, the developer didn't know that. But then son's gotten out of jail and now he wants to claim his rights.
So I've had situations on the development side like that where the lender recorded it in the wrong jurisdiction,
Yeah.
Really?
right?
Oh, yeah, that happens.
In the wrong jurisdiction. It is 300, 400, whatever the amount of money is, it is well worth it. It saves a ton of heartache and you'll move along wonderfully.
And going back to 2008, when a lot of builders and developers went belly up,
Yeah.
all those mechanics liens attached to all of those properties. Do you want to be standing there without a title policy? I don't.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. Because you hit another recession and everybody goes belly up. Guess who's left holding the pile? It's you.
So we talked process. We talked that's a great piece of information. Homeowners insurance policy, right? Z is one of our sponsors. How important is that in the process? And do you find that people get in front of that before the closing table, or is it kind of?
It depends on the realtor, actually.
Yeah.
If they have an excellent realtor like Keith and Yonna, then they've
Yonna,
been advised.
that would be.
Yeah, they've been
Didn't
advised
argue.
that that's one of the things they need to put in place. And if they have a lender involved, the lender's told them that it needs to be put in place because the lender's going to require it. If you are buying a house for cash, a lot of times, a lot of those things that are normal in the process with the lender get skipped. I have had somebody the day before closing on a cash purchase, I go, so do you have your homeowner's policy? Do I need to pay that at closing? And they go, what? And I'm like, a homeowner's policy?
A cash purchase transaction and he didn't have a homeowner's?
That happens a lot.
Really? Did we
You
have a-
would be shocked at how often.
Was there a
that
real
happens.
estate agent? Was there a real estate agent on the? Oh, geez.
It wasn't
Yes.
you.
Yeah.
I was searching my memory banks, making
Yeah.
sure it was no.
It wasn't you.
Yeah.
But
Good Lord.
yeah, that does happen. So I mean, there's a lot of steps in the process when you start to go cash that maybe don't get caught because there's no lender going, okay, where's this, unless you have a really good realtor.
So on all cash transactions, we actually just did a couple this week. We suggest very strongly that the buyers do an appraisal. Paid extra bucks, do the appraisal right in the contract. The appraisal must appraise for full contract price or greater, because even though they're cash, because the path is so quicker, the closing to do that. I had a situation happen yesterday at a closing, and I'm reading off of your process tab that you have on your website. But the final walkthrough, which I was very excited to see on that, we do it a little differently. We actually do a pre-walkthrough before the actual final walkthrough. So the final walkthrough is with the buyer. Usually it's a half an hour, 45 minutes before closing. We make sure, somebody, and I've had this happen to me before, somebody doesn't put a piano as they're moving through the front door, right? The house is still standing, everything is still functioning on that. We had a case where there were supposed to be windows replaced and they weren't. And is that a common place for you?
Happened to us in Redfields.
Yeah, and how we navigated it, frankly, I offered to pay it out of my own pocket because this was the same client that was a vet moving down from Virginia. It was just a horrible closing. Yeah, it was, yeah. But we got her in, and so we absorbed the cost on it. I picked up the phone and called some folks I know, and we got it taken care of. Is that a common thing that happens, and people forget to do that? Or how important is the final walkthrough?
The final walkthrough is very important. In fact, that's one of the questions that we ask when you sit down at the table is, so have you done your walkthrough? Was everything okay? And sometimes they get to the table and no, they haven't done the walkthrough. So we say, you know what? You go do that walkthrough, and when you're done, you call me and let me know that I can go and record. Because as the closing agent, it's sort of our responsibility to make sure that all of the boxes have been marked off. And that walkthrough is one of those boxes that's really important, because if they get in that house and I've gone and recorded, that problem is now theirs. They have lost their negotiating ability at that point. So we have to take care
you
of
brought up an interesting point that we always explain to buyers, and particularly buyers. Sellers is a little bit less important to, but once it records, that contract terminates. It's done, unless they get overly technical. There's some, this item shall survive closing, and then there's all kinds of different agreements in place. But once it records, that document is formally dead. So, and if it's not done prior, as Katie's saying, if it's not done prior to that recordation, that you completely lose whatever negotiating or position of strength that you're in at that particular point.
Ashley Scheckler giving you some love. You'll appreciate this comment from Ray Cadell. Katie and Charlottesville Settlement Company are deal makers, not deal breakers.
Oh, amen to that.
That's my highest real estate compliment. Let's give some thanks to Caitlin Mancini watching the program, Scott Byer watching the program, James Watson, Gavin Sherwood, Gary Callahan, Megan Perry, your team, Justine from your team is watching right now. Nicole Scroll, the developers, watching right now. I count 5 different firms watching the program. This portion of the program, thanks to Pearl Certification.
Yeah, so actually I've been following her. She's doing some awesome hikes in Colorado. Pearl's great. We've actually going through this on our personal house. We're putting some solar on our house and so forth and so on, and we're getting our house hopefully gold. We'll see how it goes. Depends on how the builder did. The guy who built it is a little questionable. So, Katie, I've turned my notes over for a reason.
Running the gauntlet.
We're going to have fun.
Yeah.
Oh, yay.
We do something at the end of the show, his idea called Running the Gauntlet.
Well,
wow.
he coined it. That's not what I called it, but I like it. It works.
It sounds kind of scary.
You should be.
Yeah, you should be
You
scared.
should be scared. But
last show, the gauntlet was a therapy session with Keith and Yonna.
Oh, good Lord, yeah. I had Yonna here last Friday. She was in the other thing, and we're pretty sure that we've now just hired Jerry as our therapist.
Oh, okay.
Marriage
That's
guy,
good.
right? Yeah, I'm not so sure we're getting better, but maybe the therapist.
At
My
least you're having
therapy
fun.
suggestion was more gin.
It was actually. So we, at the end of the show, we kind of turn everything over and we just have kind of fun and we just kind of ask some questions and
Quick hitters.
quick hitters. And I am, look at this. She's breathing in. You'll have fun. You'll just, this will be great. So I'm going to let Jerry start off and then I'll jump in after that.
Favorite restaurant in Charlottesville, Central Virginia, and why?
I have to say, well, I like a lot of restaurants, but I probably have more fun at Timberwood because that's where
Which one?
The
North?
North.
Okay.
Because that's where my husband and I meet all of our friends. on
Adam
Fridays.
does a good job there.
Yeah.
What do you get there?
I love their nachos, of course, and their burgers are good.
So you were beer, wine, or mixed drink?
I'm a
young lady?
mixed drink girl because
Ooh,
I never got the taste for beer. Wine's okay. I mean, I enjoy wine, but I probably go mixed drink more.
So which would that be?
Usually Tito's vodka.
Tito's is good.
Yeah, that's
Well
my
done.
stuff.
How do you take it?
I like it with cranberry juice a lot.
Yonna does the same thing.
Yeah.
What is a weekend pleasure for you?
Probably binge watching something with my husband, just sitting there
Netflix?
laughing. Yeah.
Yeah, what are you watching now?
Man in the High Castle.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a really good one.
Yeah.
Do you actually take weekends?
Yeah, actually, I do. I still have my little phone sitting there and answering questions, but
So just so you know, that's not taking a
Right.
weekend.
That's
Just so
what my
that you
wife
know.
would say, too. My wife calls this Misty, the other woman.
ah,
I have a no rule after, really, if she's watching. It's supposed to be 8 p.m., but I push it to like 9:30.
You also have a morning one too, as I know.
I have a morning one. She's. I mean, we have an 18-month-old. She's cracking the whip a little.
I
Yeah.
tested it once at 5:30 in the morning, and I realized, nah, that's
When he texted me at 5:30 in the morning, it woke up our son.
oh, geez.
And my wife was like, "You."
I do leave mine downstairs.
I'm very fearful of meeting your wife, by the way.
She's Irish.
And she's,
Irish. She grew up on Long Island.
And she's a Long Island girl.
Yeah, she does not mess around, dude.
A Long Island girl. I
Yeah.
said that properly.
Right.
That she will appreciate
And
that.
I got the Montauk, or not the Massapequa address for you too.
Cool.
We'll throw
Yeah,
that off there.
send that. Yeah, send that to me. I'd love to check it out. So, best piece of advice you've ever been given, and why?
Ooh, probably from my mother, and she always told me, "Don't not ever depend on anybody else. Make sure you can depend on yourself."
That's good advice.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite thing about Charlottesville?
Probably, I would say my business relationships here. They have been a lot stronger and a lot better here, and I've enjoyed them a lot more than I ever did. And some of that may be my age, but I have enjoyed my business relationships here more.
So, speaking of business relationships, what little tidbit you can share about Mr. Tucker?
Ooh, he is
No, there's no rules here, by the way. There's no
Oh, yeah,
FCC.
yeah.
And we know he wears sandals.
Oh,
We went
Does
through
he
that.
ever?
We went through that, and
but he's a sweetaholic. He tries to act like that he's buying the cookies for everybody else, but he's really buying them because he loves them.
I wrote sweets down.
Yeah, he is a sweetaholic.
I got to remember the next time I go to a closing in there, I'll bring a bunch of chocolate.
And
for
I'm
him.
not sure, but I really think that his wife Ellie might kind of curtail his sweets at home, and so he tries to get them when he's out of the house.
She watches the show all the time. She's awesome.
Uh-oh.
Charlottesville Sing Out. I think she was a part of.
Yeah. Ellie's great.
Toughest or least favorite aspect of your job?
The toughest aspect of my job is when someone's not performing and I have to discipline because I hate that.
Right.
My favorite part of the job is dealing with the people and figuring out how to get them into that house that they want. That's my favorite.
Handing the keys across the table.
Yeah, that and solving the title problem.
Sure. So you're a problem solver.
Yeah, I like that.
Good for you.
How about the go-to one on the island? That's a good one.
You sure?
You haven't asked it yet.
Okay. So you're on a deserted island. and you have to you can bring one book with you, what is that book going to be?
Lord.
That's a bit of a trick question, by the way.
You always trick them.
Well,
So you're on a deserted island, and you're allowed
it's
to
probably, it may not be politically correct, but I'd probably take the Bible because I think that you
Oh.
can find so many different avenues and ways to deal with things in that one book.
So we had Bellamy Brown sitting in the seat, and that was exactly how he answered that.
That's definitely politically correct. I have no problem with that at all. I respect that.
So mine, I'm a Marine, so it would be the Marine Corps Survival Manual, which is kind of like the Bible.
Yeah.
For a Marine, anyway.
Yeah.
But,
Well, my husband's Army, so.
oh, well, interview over. Have a nice day.
Both of my sons do.
Oh, well, interview's
my
really
grandma.
over now. But thank them for their service, please. So, anything you want to ask us? We have a few minutes left.
2 minutes left.
2 minutes left. Anything
You
that...
crushed it today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well,
You took a topic that was, I'd say, complicated and not necessarily approachable, and you made it approachable and understandable.
Well, if I can't explain it to the general public and help them get through this very stressful process, then what am I here for?
So how are you going to explain it to real estate rocks like myself? So
You guys get it pretty good. I mean, you may not retain it, but you get it.
Jeez almighty.
It's
Well,
true.
welcome to the show. Have a nice day.
Backhanded compliment right
I
there.
think I just got slapped.
I wasn't talking about you in
Oh,
particular. I
you
was
sure?
talking
You're
about
sure?
realtors in general.
Oh, okay. So, thank you so much.
Yeah, you were awesome.
I've been wanting to do this for a while. We've been chasing each other, trying to get on each other's calendars to make this happen. I absolutely, hands down, knew that you could take a rather potentially dry subject and add a little bit of
Flavor.
Well, and clearly beauty to it.
Yeah.
So again, any questions you want to ask us?
It's your time to fire away.
We've known each other a little bit. This is your opportunity. There's no rules. Ask me a question. Oh, we're out of time.
What made you, what made you decide that real estate was going to be your thing?
Wow.
Son of a Brooklyn fireman, right?
Sure. So I was always in the construction business. So if anybody knows anything about New York City cops or firemen, they always have second jobs or third jobs. So we were always in the construction business. But I've been in this business since '87, either buying and selling for myself, building for folks. I think I can't remember actually when I got my real estate license. 15, 20, I can't remember the year, to be honest with you. Yonna will chime in and correct me, I'm sure. But I tell this story all the time. I had a cousin of mine whose job was debt collecting. And we're at my oldest sister's wedding. And just kind of tell you why I love what I do. Makes a lot of money, blah, 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 blah. So what he does is he collects debts.
Bad debt. Yeah.
Bad debt. He's owns that company that people call him. And we're at my sister's wedding, and he was saying, I'm in the wrong business, and I need to change to him because he's making all this money, and I'm just letting him talk. And at the end of it, I said, at the end of the day, all you're going to do is have money. I drive down a street, and I say, I built that house, I built this street, I sold that house, I made this person move into that, and long after I am dead, those things are going to be there.
Legacy.
Yeah, and to me, that's success. Anybody can make money, right? But can somebody do something like that? And I just have the ability to do it. It's probably dumb luck or whatever. I don't know what. But I enjoy helping, the same reason you do it, giving a set of keys to somebody and making some magic happen.
Good answer right there. Hey, you were amazing.
Thank you.
Seriously, today was a fun show.
It was fun.
We will archive the show on ilovecville.com. We're going to take the audio and turn it into an iTunes podcast. For 30 days following today's show, we'll syndicate it across our network, 17 Facebook pages, 17 Twitter accounts, the third largest Instagram in the community, and a daily e-newsletter that goes out to over 108,000 inboxes.
So I've learned from previous guests not to say this number because we had coffee at Marie Buffet, but this reaches
253,000 unique IPs a year.
Wow.
a month, right?
No, total, in a year.
Oh, yeah.
In a year. It's not bad.
Crazy. That's
Not
crazy.
bad. Good work.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Yes.
Katie.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
Thank you. A little pound. Real Talk, guys, Fridays at 10:15 on the I Love CVille Network. Enjoy your morning. Good work. Very nicely done. Very nicely done. Very nicely done, Katie.
I tried.
One more thing to do. We got to take what we call the hero photo.
Well, there's a thing to do before that.
Oh, we got to go to the
Let's
restroom.
try some get together.
Good job, Katie.